and welcome to my channel. I am Stephanie and this is the top 18 of 2018. The books I loved. As I said in the title, hello, this is my top 18 for 2018. Now, here is a disclaimer, because there's just no possible way that I would be able to choose just 18 books, because I've read so many amazing series and standalones and short stories and poetry and just a variety of books this year that it's my list, so I get to do what I want. But I have 18 different things to talk to you about right now. So these are in no particular order. I love all 18 of these items equally, and I had to let you guys know and give you guys a little insight on why I love them so much. So hopefully this video isn't like super long, but let's just jump right into it. So the first book that I'm going to talk about is Sweet Cheeks by Bromberg. I had not read any of Bromberg's books before I read this book, which she gave away for free in the Taste of Romance Goodreads group, which is a group of authors, romance authors and things like that, and she's part of it. So she was like, hey, here's my book. How about you guys read it and, you know, let me know what you think. Oh my God, I have been sleeping on Bromberg. I am looking forward to diving into the rest of her books. As a matter of fact, one of her book series has been made into a movie, or is in the making of being a movie. So I'm just looking forward to like diving into it, and I really enjoyed this rom-com sort of fake romance book. It was great. It was amazing. I loved it. Thing I'm going to talk about is a series, and it's called the Bridgewater County series by Vanessa Vale. Oh my goodness. Ride me dirty, claim me hard, take me fast, and hold me close. I read these short erotic stories or novellas at the end of the year in 2018, and I devoured them. They are all MFM romances, and they live in a polyamorous community that, you know, understands that whole two husbands, one wife situation that goes on. And you would think that this is a series about polyamory, that they're going to be formulated. Every single one of those 4 books were completely different. The only thing that made them in the series together is that they were in the county of Bridgewater, and it revolved around this community, and that they were polyamorous. That's it. Other than that, they were absolutely amazing and completely different. They had an emotional texture to them, and I just loved every single moment of those. The next thing I'm going to talk about is Blue Light Duet and The Perfect Duet by Meghan Quinn. That is 4 books, so 2 and 2. I suggest that you read all 4 of them together, back to back to back. I had to end up waiting because I was on the ARC team for it, and I read 2 of them, and then I read 2 more, and this series this set of duets gave me heartache and sent me through my emotions. But I forgot to tell you guys what books it is in these 2 duets. So the Blue Line Duet is The Upside of Falling and The Downside of Love, and then you have The Perfect Duet, which is the left side of Perfect and the right side of Forever. There's one main staple, one main character that is in all 4 books, and that is Cove, and I absolutely love him. I love Cove. Love him. Love him so very much. So very much. I like to say that this is like his story, because if you read from that first one to the last one, you kind of get like this huge roundabout thing for him, and I just loved every single minute of it. Absolutely every single minute of it. The next thing I'm going to talk about is The Baller by Vi Keeland. This was not my first read from her, but this was also a free book during or in the Taste of Romance reading group to introduce more people to Vi Keeland. Oh my goodness. This cover had me, I was like, oh, I'm getting me a sports romance. It's going to be all good. And then there is this emotional aspect that just kicked me in the gut. Completely kicked me in the gut. As a matter of fact, I finished reading this one along with one other one that makes it on this list as well. That I'll talk about later. And I was through for the day. I finished this book and then that book. And I was like, I'm done. Done. Posted Instagram, my cryy, teary face. I'm crying at work because it was just so emotional and was... but it also has rom-com, sports, romance intertwined in there because our main characters, one is a sports reporter and one is the star of the sport. And yeah, it's sexy, it's funny, it has emotional connection, and so good. So good. Very memorable for 2018. The next thing I'm going to talk about is Love in Catalina Cove by Brenda Jackson. The Brenda Jackson. Oh my goodness. I had never, don't fault me, never read a Brenda Jackson book before I read this one. And this one was absolutely amazing. Oop, strike that. I had read one. I enjoyed her other book that I read. But this one blew my mind. This one has drama, it has twists, it has turns that I did not see coming. I was like, what is really going on? My girl Lauren from the novel Lush, she had read this before, and when I reviewed, or when I saw her video review for this book, I was like, oh, I gotta mute this because I'm reading it as well. I muted it, and while I was watching her and her hand movements and describing this story, I was like, I really need to get to this. And then I went and picked it up and I was like, oh yes, yes, I feel all of that. And then I went back and listened and I was like, yes, I'm right there with you, Lauren, on every single aspect that you talk. Yes, yes, yes. So in this story, you have a woman that grew up in Catalina Cove, and as soon as she was able, she had secrets and had a reputation in her town, so she got out of there. Well, her aunt dies, leaves her the hotel that is in this very rich, beautiful area, and she goes back and she meets, well, on her way, she decides she's going to rent a Corvette and speed a little bit. Well, the sheriff of the town ends up pulling her over. They feel this instant connection, but she didn't put anything by it. She was like, whatever, you know, no big deal. And come to find out, there are a lot of secrets and twists and turns that I just did not see coming. It was so good. So very good. The next thing I'm going to talk about is Smoke and Mirrors Duet by Jodi Ellen Malpas. And that is The Controversial Princess and His True Queen. I listened to this in the height of all of the hype that went along with Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, and it just was so good. And this duet is actually a twist on their love story, and I loved it. I loved every single, I was there for it. In this series, you have a princess who is third in line, and she is loved by the country, but she has no desires whatsoever to become queen. And yes, 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 yes. There are dark elements to this story. A little bit of BDSM that has a little revolve that, you know, resonates in there. It's dirty. Yes, loved every single minute of it. And I definitely suggest you get this on audiobook because that's how I listened to it and I devoured it. It was so good. So very good. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the Jamison Vale series by Devney Perry. And the 3 books that I have actually read out of the series, I have 2 more to read. But the 3 that I've read out of the series is the Coppersmith Farmhouse, the Clover Chapel, and the Lucky Heart. I still have 2 more books to read in this series, but I have no doubt that I will enjoy those 2 books as well, because this book series revolves around small town Montana, and each one of the stories is very different. And in our first book, you have a mom that has a daughter that moves to a small town after she inherits a farmhouse that she didn't know she was going to get. And you have the sheriff that has been taking care of that farmhouse is mad that this newcomer is getting his house that he's been taking care of. So you have that dynamic, and it's so good. It's very emotional. This entire series that I've found so far has a bit of thriller that goes along with it, or suspense, maybe. No, thriller, suspense, you know, it keeps you on the edge. It has that bit of, ooh, what's going to happen next that goes along with it. So I really enjoyed it. I can't wait to get to the rest of the series, the last 2 books in it, and yes, so many thumbs up. The next thing I'm going to talk about is Girl Meets Duet by Tessa Bailey. My girls, Amanda from The Naughty Librarian and Lauren from the novel Lush, got me reading these books because I was so leery about diving into historical romance, because usually I find that they're really dry. But these two, The Governess Game and The Duchess Deal, were absolutely amazing. They are smart, they're independent, and then it's set in historical Victorian era. It's like, what? Yeah. How is that supposed to? I'm loving it. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. And in The Governess Game, you have these 2 kids that almost steal the show, but it's like they don't. But they have a great part in it, and I loved them as well. And then the sexy times are inventive. It's not just, you know, push, pull, I'm done, roll over, get out my bed type stuff. It is like, I'm gonna do you under the stars. Such a sweet, sweet moment of time right there. And yeah, so it was great. I loved this duet. I devoured it, and I am looking forward to reading more. The next thing I'm going to talk to you about is a Web of Sin series by Aleatha Roman. Aleatha Roman is one of my favorite authors ever. She really got me into that psychological, dark, twisted craziness, and this series plays on her dark stuff that I started out with, like in Consequences and things like that, and it also gave sort of that lighter, sexier side that she gave me in Infidelity, which is not about cheating, series. So I loved the beautiful mix and twists and turns. So in this series you have Secrets, Lies, and Promises. Promises is coming out. It might actually have been released by the time this video comes out, but you may have already heard my review on it as well. But I am in love with this series. This series has so many twists and turns that I did not see coming, and then it offers this extra level of sexiness that is just amazing. Amazing. Yes. The next thing I'm going to talk to you about is The Gathering by L.A. Fiore. I was in love with this book before I even read it, because this cover is absolutely stunning. I absolutely love this beautiful, beautiful cover, and I actually also have a copy of it, or I don't, so I'll scratch that part. But I loved this cover, and it was just absolutely beautiful. It gives this like air of mystery, and then I read it in October, so the occult, and it just brought all of those spooky, crazy feelings that I don't necessarily deal with, because if it's scary, if it's horror, if it's twisted and creepy, I'm not dealing with it. I'm not doing it, not doing it. This book plays on those different aspects in a way that it didn't give me nightmares, but it was beautiful, and it brings in so much stuff. Paranormal, romance, gods, deities, earth, faith, just so much. I loved this story and loved how it flowed and everything like that. It was just great. It was so great. The next thing I'm going to talk to you about is The Stars Duet by Amie Knight, and the books are Beneath His Stars and In Her Space. And this is a sort of lifetime story, not as in the network Lifetime. This is a lifelong story because Beneath His Stars I categorized as a young adult story because it deals with when our female main character is in high school and the ramifications of her sort of figuring out or bucking against the system. Her father dies. She's living with her stepmother that is just pure evil, sort of like a Cinderella story type thing going on there. And then she decides she wants something that she did with her dad all the time was look at the stars. And she encounters this young man that is not from the same side of the tracks as her. He's not rich. He's in a poor town, and that's right across the bridge from her rich island. And they interact, and then you get to see them sort of blossom. And the ending of Beneath His Stars leaves you in a place that you're like, what is going on? What's going to happen to these people? And how do they move on and recover from this? And in her space, you find out how they have sort of rounded themselves out and how they've dealt with the traumas and events that happened in Beneath His Stars. And that's why I placed that one in New Adult. And I just loved the span of this duet and how it effortlessly melded together and gave you this full picture. I just really enjoyed it. The next thing I'm going to talk to you about is Gravel Road by Stephie Walls. This book left me in anguish for the entirety of the reading. So, this book deals with small town young girl that something happens. You're finding out in the beginning of this book that she had a great love story with her high school sweetheart and with the town sweetheart. They were the it couple for this small town. You just knew that they were going to be in love and be together forever. Then something happens and you don't know what happens. You just know the ramifications of that event have placed these two individuals on two different sides of a coin, and you don't know how they're gonna get past it or why or if they can. And I was left in anguish for 65-70% of this book, and I was like, what's going on? What happened? Tell me. Please tell me. And in the end, I have my sweet release and sweet love of these two characters, but I definitely went through that emotional roller coaster of a journey, and it was beautiful and it was great, and I loved every single minute of it. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the new Camelot series by Simone. I raved about this pretty much all last year, so me raving about it in this video is no surprise. It has the American Queen, the American Prince, and the American King books in this series of awesomeness. Oh my goodness. So this is very dark. It has very somewhat taboo content. It most definitely is for mature audiences. I listened to this on audiobook and I loved it. Now the first one I was not as invested in. American Queen is about Greer and her story. I was like, I'm a little laxative. Do I like Greer? Don't I like Greer? I'm not very sure, but we will see. Got to American Prince and fell in love. Fell in love with our two main male characters, and they were absolutely amazing. And the trio of them from then on was just great. Amazing. And like I said, it does have adult content in it, so if you're not over 18, I definitely don't think you should read it. If you're not of a maturity to read dark themed romance, very on edge romance, or on the edge of dealing with your, I guess, your own moral compass, your own, because everyone's moral compass is different. You may want to tread lightly with this. I have seen some bad reviews because of other people's, you know, moral compasses aren't the same as mine. So, you know, I find things okay that someone else may not. But this book, definitely, you want to tread lightly with it, but it's still an amazing read. I would definitely recommend it to people that have similar, you know, reading tastes. You guys have been watching my channel for a while now. If you haven't, welcome. By the way, if you have been watching my channel, you guys know my taste, so you should know that I can walk the line of keeping my morality and an author's, you know, indulgence into different things separate. Real life, fictional world, yeah, I can do that. Getting off topic. Next thing I'm going to talk to you about is 1,000 Boy Kisses by Tillie Cole. This was not released last year. Like quite a few of the other books, this was not released last year or the year before that, for that matter. I don't know. This book tore my heart out, ripped it up, threw it on the ground, and I was done for. You guys were like, oh, you need to read this. You need to read this. This book follows a young lady and a young man. This is a new adult story. They are in high school. They fall in love. Then they're separated. Then he comes back. He's trying to figure out why she sent him away, why they broke up. She's trying to figure out how much do I need to keep from him without hurting him. Tore my heart out. Just done for. Done for. The next book I'm going to talk about is Heartbreak Warfare by Heather M. Orgeron and Kate Stewart. There are so many feelings about this book that I just couldn't even start to like minimize it. So if you want to hear like my full out, blown out spoiler, non-spoiler review for it, check the card and check right there. Yes, because mwah, amazing. Absolutely amazing. I could not. Whew. It deals with the military. It deals with being a female in the military and the effects of being deployed. That's the most basic explanation I can give about this story. So I think you should go into it blind. If you have a military connection or if you're a female in the military, be sensitive with yourself. Take care of yourself because you may be emotionally involved in this story. I mean, I was never deployed, but I know other female that were deployed since 9/11 to Iraq and Afghanistan and all those dangerous places. This book's gonna put you through it. Yes. Just yes. The next thing I'm going to talk to you about is A Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. This is a book of poetry. However, I listened to it on audiobook and it came off to me as a short story because Jason narrates this book of poems and he does it in this way that just... This is the other book that I read that destroyed my world that one day at work. Oh, I was just so moved. I couldn't cry face all over the place. But this look into a young man's life growing up in the hood. The hood because that's where he lived. It's a span of 2 to 3 minutes, an elevator ride, but so much happens. So much happens. And it's so beautiful. And I just, so good. We're getting to the end, you guys. Okay, the next book I'm going to talk about is Long Shot by Kennedy Ryan. Another book that I listened to on audiobook, and the two narrators for this just nailed these two characters. This book does deal with domestic violence, and it is beautiful. It made me think differently about anyone that has to deal with a domestic violence situation. And I mean, I can't say enough. I have to say that about domestic violence because it is a huge part of this story. In the story, you have a basketball player who is taking a break on the night before the eve of his possibly biggest game of his life before he enters the draft. And then you have a female that meets him at a bar. They're not drinking or anything like that, but they sit and they conversate about basketball, a common love between the two of them. And come to find out, some things are not as what they seem. She is actually involved with his rival, and it's not a come together right away story. You get to see his struggles with not being able to get the girl, and you get to see her struggles with the things that she had to deal with and the decisions that she had to make. And it was just like, oof, very emotional, very emotional. And then the last book that I'm going to talk about is Dear Martin by Nick Stone. Another emotional book that just gave me insight into what everyone is trying to post up and bring to light, I guess you could say, about the social injustices of the Black community versus police. And I am still very pro police. And this book gave breath and gave light to both sides. I have always been in the nature and in the opinion that there are more good police officers than there are bad ones. The news and media only likes to bring up stories about these bad police officers. This enrages communities. This enrages a nation, the United States mainly. I can't deal with any other country because I don't live in other countries. I live in the United States. This book gave balance and breath and clarity in those two sides. In this story, you have Justice, who is a young man that deals with the police, has an incident with them, and things happen from there. He ends up going to school and discusses it with his social class, his sociology class, I believe it was. He's a good student. He's at a charter school. He makes straight A's. He's on track to get scholarships and all sorts of goodness because he's worked hard and he's done what he had to do. But this one incident is really making him think and change his mind about his community and everything like that. But through that, he learns, or he tries to start to emulate the teachings of Martin Luther King Jr. And this story has some twists and turns that I did not see coming and were very emotional. And as I said, it is just so balanced. So very balanced. I don't want to give anything else away. Just know that this is an amazing, amazing book. And when my son gets old enough to read this type of book, I am going to sit him down, give him my physical copy of it, and say, you need to read this, because this is how you use your voice. This is how you make a difference in the world you live in when you see that things are going wrong or things aren't unjust. I can't say anything more about that. It's just, oof. It was great. Woo! So that is my top 18 items that I read last year in 2018. I hope you guys enjoyed that list. I hope you guys enjoyed my thoughts on those books, and you will go out and try and read some of them if you haven't already because of my reviews and things like that. Let me know down in the comments which ones you are going to go try and read for 2019 or in the near future, what have you. No pressure. But if you've already read them, let's discuss your thoughts, my thoughts, all that good stuff. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a big thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Also, there is a feedback form down in the description box so you guys can help me improve my channel. Thank you for watching, and we will see you guys later.